If you come to post-apocalyptic sci-fi only for acclaimed masterpieces and respectable studio budgets, you're in the wrong place. But if you're here for Sean Connery in a red mankini, shameless Mad Max knockoffs, mutant frogman, and everything too weird for mainstream science fiction, then welcome to the world of low-budget R-rated madness. The story of Zardoz began with every major studio rejecting John Boorman's script because it was simply too bizarre. It only moved forward after Boorman's agent essentially strong-armed an executive at 20th Century Fox into greenlighting the project. The financial gamble was a disaster. It earned just $1.8 million in the US and Canada, barely recouping its budget. Set in the year 2293, humanity is split between mortal brutals in the wasteland and immortal eternals living in a sealed-off paradise called the Vortex. The brutals are kept under control by the exterminators, a warrior caste that worships Zardoz, a massive flying stone head that arrives in the wasteland to collect food and hand out guns. Sean Connery plays Zed, one of those exterminators, in an unforgettable outfit, a red mankini, thigh-high boots, and a long ponytail. But Zed starts questioning the world he serves, so when the giant head arrives, he hides inside it and gets carried into the vortex, where the real nature of Zardoz begins to unravel. Initial reactions were pure confusion. There is a famous legend that audiences leaving the theater would warn people in the ticket lines to go home and save their money. Yet, despite the early hate, Zardoz has evolved into an absolute cult classic. It is excessive, overambitious, and bursting with weirdness, but it is physically impossible for this movie to be boring. I know some will call it trash, but don't believe them. It is a rewarding, uniquely captivating trip if you can get on its wavelength. David Webb Peoples is best known as one of the writers behind Blade Runner Unforgiven and 12 Monkeys, but he also directed The Blood of Heroes, also known as Salute of the Jugger. The story follows traveling bands of juggers playing a sport that makes bare-knuckle boxing look like pee-wee football. It's an extreme version of rollerball, where entertainment has regressed to bloody gladiator matches, and the only goal is to ram a dog skull onto a spike. Rutger Hauer leads a feral ensemble, including Vincent D'Onofrio and Joan Chen. While some might dismiss this as just another ultra-weird Hauer flick from the 80s, his stoic performance provides a gritty authenticity that makes it a mandatory watch for any completist. It would be wrong not to mention A Boy and His Dog. This film perfectly represents the wilder side of post-apocalyptic cinema and served as a clear influence on the Mad Max franchise. Directed by L.Q. Jones and based on Harlan Ellison's biting story, it was not a huge mainstream hit, but it still became a cult essential, building toward one of the most jarring finales in movie history. The plot is truly barmy. A young Don Johnson traverses a ruined America with his psychic dog, Blood. In a bizarre trade, Blood helps Vic with his ultimate goal, to get laid, while Vic offers scraps of food. It's an unashamed comedy, providing a rare shift for a subgenre that usually thrives on depicting humanity at its very worst. And if you need one more reason to watch or revisit it, the weird conversations between Vic and Blood are probably enough on their own. Richard Stanley's feature debut, Hardware, was famously mired in controversy over its similarities to the comic strip Shock, with later releases crediting Steve McManus and Kevin O'Neill's original story. Still, it remains a masterclass in building a massive world on a tiny budget. The plot centers on a mysterious robot head scavenged from the wasteland and brought into a cramped apartment, where it slowly rebuilds itself into a military killing machine. Once it comes alive, Hardware turns into a brutal siege movie, with one woman trapped inside her own home against a piece of technology designed only to destroy. But the real power of the film is still its world building. It depicts an irradiated, overpopulated dystopia where technology has finally stripped away the world's humanity. The first thing you need to know about Stryker is that it's a The Road Warrior knockoff. Second, it was directed by Cirio H. Santiago, a key figure in the Filipino exploitation industry, with dozens of films to his name. While he rarely received the budgets he deserved, he even delivered a vigorous, small-scale version of the iconic tanker chase. The story takes place in a desert wasteland where water is a scarce resource fought over by survivors. The hero, Stryker, rescues a woman who holds the secret to a hidden spring, making her the prime target for a warlord and leading to a relentless pursuit across the sands. But the real fun is not the plot, but the colorful characters, including a community of dwarves and Amazons in leather hot pants. The film also features an entertaining array of vehicles, from motor tricycles to actual tanks. It's a B-movie in its purest form, and if you enjoy this brand of carnage, Santiago went back to the wasteland 2 years later with Wheels of Fire. If we are talking about post-apocalyptic ripoffs, it's only fair to highlight an Italian one. 2019, After the Fall of New York, is basically a mashup of Mad Max and Escape from New York. It is packed with cheesy effects and laughable 80s fashion, but in terms of pure, unadulterated entertainment, it actually delivers. The film follows a laconic loner, clearly a stand-in for Kurt Russell, who is sent into the ruins to find the world's last fertile woman. His mission brings him face to face with a gallery of bizarre characters: a claw-handed ex-schoolteacher, a cyborg with an eye patch, and a man-ape hybrid, charmingly named Big Ape. The film borrows from every giant in the genre, but it has enough energy and sheer weirdness to get away with it. And we also have to remember, hell comes to Frogtown. The world has been ravaged by nuclear war, and humanity is on the brink of extinction because fertility has become extremely rare. Enter Sam Hell, played by the legendary professional wrestler Rowdy Roddy Piper. He's a wasteland wanderer who happens to be one of the last fertile men left on the planet. Naturally, he's forced into a rescue mission to Frogtown, a stronghold run by mutated frogmen, to save a group of fertile women and, well, repopulate the species. It's incredibly entertaining and showcases Piper's natural comedic timing. If you want to see a wrestling icon fight mutant amphibians in the desert, look no further. The futuristic 1995 of Dead End Drive-In presents an Australia where economic collapse has created a violent, crime-ridden society. To manage the chaos, the government herds unemployed youth into concentration camps disguised as drive-in theaters, keeping them docile with a steady supply of junk food, drugs, and movies. The story follows Krabs, who is trapped inside with his girlfriend. While he desperately plots an escape, she quickly succumbs to the easy life of free drugs and junk food, eventually absorbing the racist mentality inside the compound. This film is pure, high-octane fun over narrative logic. Another reason to watch is the spectacular climax, featuring a truck jump so insane it actually set a world record. To wrap things up, we have The Quiet Earth. If Australia's vision of the apocalypse is the roaring, gasoline-fueled chaos of Mad Max, New Zealand's take is absolute silence. A global energy project malfunctions, seemingly erasing almost all of humanity in an instant. The protagonist survives through a stroke of grim irony. He happened to be trying to end his life the exact second the disaster hit. There are no mutant gangs or warlords to fight here. Instead, the film first dives into the psychological toll of believing you are the last person alive. It's a slow, fascinating descent into madness, showing what happens when a man is left completely alone with his own mind, eventually leading him to hold court with a cardboard cutout of Hitler. It works because it takes its premise seriously, and Bruno Lawrence's performance keeps it grounded.